Forgive me for the painfully obvious Akira reference on the thumbnail. I could not resist. But I would be lying to you if I told you that I am an expert on the conversation we're going to be having today. Today we're talking yesterday. And for good reason, too. If you were going on to anything social, the New Jersey Devils and or the Ottawa Senators, you probably have seen this name floating around your timeline because he's been discussed about a lot. Akira Schmid. And this is why I say I'm not an expert on this topic. I'm just taking a look at this guy and his stats and bringing it to you in the video because this guy's story is so wild, especially after the incredible performance he pulled off last night to keep the New Jersey Devils win streak alive. Now, just to set up the context here regarding yesterday's game, the Devils ended up beating the Ottawa Senators in overtime, and this win for New Jersey was their 8th win in a row. Meanwhile, for the Ottawa Senators, they're a team that's lost a lot of games in a row. In fact, this loss against the Devils was their 7th in a consecutive stretch. And if you go through all of these games, I think the crazy stat that everybody was talking about was that all of the prior 7 Ottawa Senators losses were either 1-goal games where they lost or 2-goal games where they lost and the opposition scored an empty net, meaning that it was a 1-goal game that became a 2-goal game at the very end. The Sens haven't been getting blown out at all. In fact, they've been in most of these games they've lost. It's just for them, having yet another L added onto their column definitely doesn't feel good, and with the context of the Devils winning their 8th in a row, it makes this showcase by one Akira Schmid much more important. This is because with 6 minutes to go in the period pretty much, at the commercial break, we had ourselves the main goalie for the Devils, Vitek Vanecek, actually leave the game himself. He went to the trainer and he got pulled off, the de facto backup. He played for the last 13 minutes of game time in regulation and in overtime, and because you know the Devils won, you know that Schmid was the guy that got the win. Before Nico Hischier scored the overtime goal with 33 seconds left to go in the extra frame, you had yourselves a resume for the ages with Akira Schmid, as he was pretty much thrown into a blizzard of Ottawa Senators scoring opportunities. This is because the Sens got themselves a power play in overtime, and then you had yourselves the Devils who were under siege for a little bit. But after a few very nice blocker saves and a very amazing cross-crease one-time tap-in by Brady Tkachuk that was all stopped by Schmid, the Devils pulled off the win. It was extremely hype. This guy came into the NHL this season as a de facto, third-string goaltender, pretty much. He gets himself a game, he comes in, he knows the win streak is on the line, and he pulls out the dub. This is what Schmid said regarding the circumstances of his bringing into the game. He says he knew that the 7-game win streak was on the line when he went into the game for Vanecek. I don't even want to say it. And I think he means shutting them out, maybe? Because that's what he did. Obviously, you don't expect your first win to be like this, but I'll take it for sure, said Schmid, who came in with just over 6 minutes to play in a tied game, made some incredible overtime saves, and waited for that Nico Hischier. He went 0-4-0 last season, playing 6 games and having an .833 save percentage. Having this be your first NHL win after being a pretty good stellar, the more sweet now, doesn't it? This is where we go into the scouting report part of the video, why you should be paying attention to Akira Schmid. Oh my goodness, I did that automatically. Ay, ay, ay. The guy's from Switzerland. Don't be pronouncing the names like he's Japanese. Let's just say Akira. Akira. There you go. Akira was born in Switzerland, which is actually interesting because when the Devils were shorthanded in the overtime period, 3 out of the 4 guys on the ice for New Jersey were Swiss. Siegenthaler, Hischier, and Schmid. That's kind of funny, isn't it? But Schmid was born May 12, 2000, so he's just, what is that? Almost 2 months exactly older than I am, which is pretty interesting to note. He's 6'5", 205 as a goaltender drafted by the Devils back in 2018 in the 5th round. When he was drafted, he had 32 games played, an 18-9-3 record, and this league is so obscure and underscouted. You have multiple outings for Team Switzerland at the U18s and the U19s. I would be lying if I told you that he was okay over there, because a 6.5 goals against is, yeah, that's really bad. Either way, though, the Devils saw something in Schmid, which is why they took him in the 5th round, and this is kind of why I say that his path has been really weird, because the next few seasons are filled with just so many different leagues that it's kind of wild to acknowledge what he's been through. The next season after getting drafted, Schmid spent some time with a 7.43 goals against, and of course, he lost that game. It's always wild when you see the goaltender who has a goals against average and a save percentage number that is equal. That's so crazy. But that's not all that happened that season, because he also played in the NAHL for the Corpus Christi Ice Rays. There, he was pretty good. He had a 9.48 save percentage and a 1.50 goals against, but the problem with the NAHL is this league is the second-tier junior American league. It's a statistical profile there, a 9.26 save percentage and 37 games. The NAHL is underneath that, so he actually did spend some time in the second-tier Junior American League before bouncing around between the Omaha Lancers and the Sioux City Musketeers, while also suiting up for Team Switzerland internationally. Akira Schmid made his way over to the New Jersey Devils and eventually the Utica Comets. This is where you have him today, as the main Utica guy last season who had 38 games played and a 9.11 save percentage, definitely a solid number right there, and he was the guy that did have the most games played. And then, of course, this season you have yourselves Schmid with his 1.97 goals against and his 9.18 save percentage in 4 games for Utica, and then, of course, the shutout that he posted up against the Sens. Now, I don't think it actually counts as a shutout because he didn't play the majority of the game. He only played 13 minutes, but because of the way the NHL rules work, if you have multiple goalies that are used by a team in the same game, the goalie amongst your guys that gets the win or the loss is determined by who was on the ice when the game-winning goal was scored. All them just absolutely shutting the door and giving New Jersey fans something to cheer about. The building, the commentators, they all went crazy when this guy made his desperado saves. And, I mean, everybody's all hyped up for this now. Sure, Vanacek. This is the epitome of hype right here. Look at him making all these saves. He's not your friend, he's our about this guy. Not just because he's got a really cool name, but this is a hype story that New Jersey Devils fans all around had kind of looked in upon and watched and said, yeah, no, that is crazy. This guy just earned us a win right here. The win streak is on. Schmidt was the guy that came out there and allowed it to continue, and now we have a legitimate case of a guy that might be able to give us some goaltending security for the next little while here while we wait for some of these other guys to recover from injury. Just to reiterate how crazy everything is, just 4 years ago, in 2018-19, this guy was playing in the second-tier American Junior League. Like, I'd be an NHL story in the next 4 years, because that league is so down there in the dumps when it comes to its scouting and its NHL productivity, that it's crazy. Like, you don't normally see guys come from that league and make the NHL. Is quite remarkable, especially when you acknowledge that he went from there to Major Junior to the Pro League in the American Hockey League, and now he's in the NHL. He already played a few NHL games too, but as we had said, he did not do well in those, he lost, but now he's got that first win under his belt, and it came in a very, very great circumstance. So talk in the comments your thoughts about Akira Schmid and his story. I hope you enjoyed this video.